Public officials are in the spotlight for their agreement over the relocation to Boston by General Electric. The move has been widely hailed as a boost for economic growth that will pay dividends for years. It's also been criticized because of tax breaks and other incentives from the city and state. Our guests are two of the critics. We'd like to welcome a member of Jewish Voice for Peace, Gerzon, and a student at Boston Latin School who's also the vice president of the Boston Student Advisory Council, Nathan Tran-Trinh. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
I want to start with Eli. If you're looking at this, what bothers you first? Is it the amount of public subsidy, or is it that it's GE?
It's really both. So personally, I came from it mainly from the fact that it's GE, and they are weapons manufacturers that make the engines for warplanes that are used by the U.S. military and also by the Israeli army. Jewish Voice for Peace is a group that advocates for Palestinians.
Nathan, what about your concerns? What do you think of?
So my initial concern stemmed from the proposed Boston Public Schools budget cuts. And then I also do have ethical issues with GE. I know that they have consistently ranked among the top polluters of the country. And as Eli has already said, they do fund like warplanes for the U.S. Army and the Israeli Army.
Right. Well, I mean, I know one thing that's interesting is that I certainly saw a lot of signs about the school budget cuts. And just recently there was the announcement by GE and city officials when, lo and behold, they got some money for the Boston schools. So
we have some issues with that. First of all, our personal belief is it's kind of too little, too late, because their $25 million donation, as nice as it is, doesn't really cover all of the cuts. We're still probably going to see a lot of cuts to programs such as IEP programs. And also, I have some questions about like the allocation of these funds. I heard that they're going strictly to science departments, which is not the only place that suffers from these like lack of funds per se.
Yeah, and if I could comment on that also, there's two things about it that sort of speak to the apparent motivation of GE, because they announced that on the same day that we were having our rally to draw attention to all of the problems with this deal. And when you think about $25 million versus what really comes out to about $350 million in public subsidies for this move, it's not really a great deal. So
now, of course, the argument from GE and the governor and the mayor is that having a company like this, it really makes waves. It will attract other companies, and it just puts Boston on the map for innovation.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always really important to look at and question, well, who is that helping, right? And so they say they're bringing 800 jobs just directly from GE. Who's getting those jobs? First of all, there's a lot of people coming straight from Connecticut to move to Boston, right? And so that increases our population of upper middle class, people in the city, increasing gentrification individually, but it's also generally who's going to get hired. There's not going to be a lot of middle class, working class jobs, which is what we really need in the city. There's absolutely no guarantees involved in the deal that say, oh, we're going to make sure to hire a certain number of Bostonians, of people of Greater Boston or something like that.
Nathan, what about GE's environmental record? What do you think of around that?
I mean, of the research I've done, it predominantly stated they were frequently like top polluters in terms of production. So I certainly cannot support that.
And very specifically, they polluted the Housatonic River in western Massachusetts. And I believe the estimate is that it would take about $600 million to clean it up, and they're fighting all they can to not do that. So it's a real failure, it seems, of the governor, where, hey, oh, you want to come to my state, to our state? Well, clean up our river first out in western Massachusetts. No, that hasn't been discussed at all. We've been bringing that into the conversation, and I know that they were asked about the river at the press conference with the governor, the mayor, and GE executives.
Nathan, what about your involvement in this campaign? Were you out there downtown when it was snowing?
Yeah,
you gave a great speech.
Yeah, I was there when it was downtown. I was outside. Turnout was pretty nice for the weather, I must say. I think the general opinion that I've gauged when asking others is that this is a bad idea in general.
But talk about what this experience has been like for you, and especially in terms of what you want to do in the future when you graduate from high school.
Sorry, say again?
You want to go into political science, right?
Yes.
So this must have been quite a learning experience for you.
Yes, I would say so, definitely.
What have you learned?
Well, I've learned that under any circumstances, you should speak your voice as much as you can, and that money wherever money goes is where the politicians go. But you should try to fight that as much as you can.
And Eli, if people want to keep track of this campaign, because there are still more questions to be answered about how this deal is going to work out, so where should they look you up?
Sure. Well, we're a group of actually ultimately 36 organizations co-sponsored the rally last week to oppose this deal, and we're under the banner of Make GE Pay. So you can, if you do that all as one word on Facebook or Twitter, you can certainly find stuff. We'll be probably creating more of a distinct presence right now. We're a group of 36 different groups who are talking about housing issues being underfunded, public transportation being underfunded, schools being underfunded, and lots of problems in our budget priorities. It's really a lot about priorities. So we're all trying to come together and figure out exactly what we're doing. I know your previous guest talked about the Fight for 15. We're having an organizing meeting right after that, actually.